The Mormon Church holds honesty as one of its central tenets. One of its articles of faith begins, "We believe in being honest and true." Their scriptures warn of the dangers that accompany lies and deception. The Church teaches that lies are not just untrue statements, but that withholding or suppressing important information is the same as lying. Why is it then that those who leave the Church often say that one of their reasons is that the Church lied to them? This feeling of being betrayed by an institution that so many of them loved and gave their all to is, in my opinion, the biggest reason that people leave the Church. How can this be for a church that teaches that honesty is of such importance that it is a requirement for entrance into their temples? The teachers in the church education system have been instructed not to reveal or talk about certain aspects of church history that might reflect negatively on the church or its past leaders. They have been warned of the serious repercussions they will face if they do not spin and present information in a strictly faith-promoting way.
As our Elder Packer has said before, we all know that there's a temptation to tell everything, whether it's worthy or faith-promoting or not. Some things that are true are not very useful.
Church lesson manuals are written in such a way as to hide or rewrite embarrassing teachings or facts, in order to make the doctrine of the Church look as if it has always been consistent with the current teachings. For example, the membership is taught that Joseph Smith translated the golden plates to get the Book of Mormon. They publish wonderful paintings of Joseph translating the golden plates as he runs his fingers over the characters imprinted on them. However, every eyewitness account states that the translation process did not involve the plates. Instead, Joseph would gaze into his magic seer stones, which were placed in a hat, and dictate the text. The plates were usually in another room, hidden in the woods, or somewhere else.
I don't see how that's relevant.
I wish that I would have known that bit of information before I went on my mission, and confidently testified to people that Joseph Smith translated the Book of Mormon from the characters on those golden plates. A person's testimony is very important within Mormonism. Members often claim to know the truthfulness of the Book of Mormon, Joseph Smith's experiences with the divine, and many other things that they cannot possibly know. In fact, Mormons are instructed to bear their testimony, even if they do not have one.
Another way to seek a testimony seems astonishing when compared with the methods of obtaining other knowledge. We gain or strengthen a testimony by bearing it. Someone even suggested that some testimonies are better gained on the feet bearing them than on the knees praying for them.
the current leadership does not lie to us and that we can trust them.
It's behind us. Look, that's behind us. Don't worry about those little flicks of history.
Is this true? Has the leadership of the church truly put the practice of lying for the Lord behind them?
I hold in my hand that book, the very copy from which Hiram read. The same corner of the page turned down, still visible.
Something is wrong. Something fictional.
Previous to Holland's talk, the Church News published some pictures of Hiram's book. If we compare the pictures of that book with the one that Holland is waving around, we can see that they are not the same book. Shortly after this talk, when this criticism was first being raised, the church came out and said that the Church News was wrong and that Holland did have the correct book, complete with the corner of the page still turned down. So it turns out there are two books that may have been the one that Hiram had, both with the corner turned down. I don't know, maybe he was using both hands. Or maybe the church is trying to cover up Holland being less than honest by giving him a way to save face.
But I would like to make an appeal to them on behalf of the church to clearly make that distinction, that to not include Mormon with the word polygamous, to not identify the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormon Church, with polygamy. They're entirely separate. There's no connection of any kind with any polygamist groups. This confusion clearly doesn't serve us well.
I completely agree with Elder Cook. I mean, other than introducing plural marriage, practicing it for 80 years, being led by a polygamous prophet for 112 years, continuing to allow widowed men who were sealed to their first wife to be sealed to their second, and having it still taught as an essential part of becoming a god in their scriptures, the Mormon Church has nothing to do with polygamy. I don't know where people get that idea.
In my country, we say people's churches, the Protestants, the Catholics, they publish all their budgets openly to all the public.
Yeah.
Why it's impossible for your church?
Well, we simply think that that information belongs to those who made the contribution and not to the world. That's the only thing. Yes.
Really? When did that start? I never saw any financial numbers when I was a full tithe-paying member, and I worked as a ward finance clerk. None of the other tithe-paying members I have ever known over the years have ever seen that kind of information either. I don't want to call Hinckley a liar, but well, I don't know how to finish that sentence.
Liar!
Hobbies include reading,
reflect what the church claims and
Elder Thomas B. Marsh, who sided with his wife through all of this, became angrier with each successive decision. So angry, in fact, that he went before a magistrate and swore that the Mormons were hostile toward the state of Missouri. His affidavit led to, or at least was a factor, in Governor Lilburn Boggs' cruel extermination order, which resulted in over 15,000 saints being driven from their homes with all the terrible suffering and consequent death that followed. All of this occurred because of a disagreement over the exchange of milk and cream.
In this General Conference address, Church President Thomas Monson distorts and embellishes the historical record of why Marsh left the church. Marsh and fellow apostle Orson Hyde left the church in protest over the burning of Gallatin, Missouri by a group of Mormons. Monson knows this. I have an earlier video where I break out just how dishonest this talk is. Please go watch that if you have not already.
Liar! Let's look at the facts, shall we?
We do not have penalties in the temple.
You used to.
We used to.
There's the truth!
The penalties, as Holland calls them, were removed from the temple in 1990, several decades after Mick got his endowments and was married in the temple. So he would have promised to slit his throat if he ever revealed the signs and tokens of the priesthood. Holland knows this.
I'm not an idiot.
Fortunately, Sweeney pushes Holland to admit this because he would not have otherwise. But even then, Holland distorts what they were about. Now, even though I went to the temple only a year after they were removed, I did not find out about the penalties in the temple until a few years ago. I am appalled that they were ever part of a ceremony that was supposed to be the most holy ritual in all of religion. I have demonstrated that the church has a history of lying, a policy of lying, and that the current leadership continues to lie, all in order to defend and promote the Mormon faith. In my experience, I have found that when a devout member learns of some of the hidden doctrines and advanced histories, they tend to feel deceived or lied to. Because of the church policy of only teaching the faith-promoting things, some members feel that they have made many of the most important decisions of their lives based on faulty or incomplete information. This causes more angst, injury, and loss of faith than do the issues themselves. It causes more damage than anything else could. The most important part of Mormon theology is, in my opinion, the plan of salvation. According to the doctrine, there was a war in heaven between God and the devil over whether or not man would be free to choose for himself. Those that fought for man's free agency won and got to come to earth and get a body and exercise their free will. Central to this plan is the right for people to search and find out what is right and wrong, what is true and false. By hiding and distorting information, the church is manipulating the choices that people make. It is hijacking their free agency for its own benefit. And that is the most anti-Mormon position that anyone can take.